Well, welcome in. I am Coach Hayes, and welcome to the Hudl, where I connect fans to the fundamentals of football. I have a great show planned as Jeremy Johnson joins me to talk wide receivers. Also going to be doing some analyzation of fall practice and Coach Kirby Smart's press conferences. You'll have wide receiver breakdowns from me and much, much more. But first, Jeremy and I after the break. Stay tuned. You're with Coach Hayes with Coach Hayes Hudl. In this segment of Coach Speak, I've got a very special guest, Jeremy Johnson with Dawgs HQ, Rivals and On 3 as a recruit writer and also working as a reporter for them. It's great to have him on the show tonight as we talk wide receivers in the room. I know a lot of people are excited. There's a lot of buzz in the room from what Coach Coley has done to help from the pitfalls of last year coming in. And I have Jeremy in here to talk about those wide receivers tonight, and I'm excited to have him on the show. Jeremy, how you doing this evening, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Glad to have you on the show and looking forward to talking all things Georgia with that wide receiver room. Now, before we get started tonight, I really would like to open up because this helps me as well, too, because getting the opportunity to meet a lot of people that I've been networking with Coach Hayes Hudl has given me so many opportunities to, like I said, meet new people, network with new people. And I want my viewers who are watching the show tonight and the people who are in the chats and in the comments who are talking, if you would, Jeremy, if you would just enlighten them about who you are, kind of give a little origin story, what brought you into this business, how long you've been doing it, and just, let us know some things more about what's going on with Jeremy right now.
Yeah, this is kind of what I wanted to do since I figured out that I wasn't going to play in the professional. Like when I found out I wasn't playing in the NFL, that was kind of, I guess that was maybe 10 years old. I was kind of like, I don't think I'm going to be in the NFL. But I used to read the newspaper every day. I was a big proponent of going outside. We always had a newspaper subscription, so I would read the sports section and you look at the Friday night scores on Saturday morning, kind of look at what college games matter. And I lived in that. And so usually there was a big preview about what the Georgia game was going to be, leading into that Saturday. And I would go and look for the I'm a huge NASCAR fan as well. So I would go and find the NASCAR lineup and see where I was a huge Jeff Gordon fan. So I would go and look, where is Jeff Gordon starting on Sunday? So I was always constantly in the newspaper. And then I was like, man, who are the people who put all this together and who creates it? I'm like, there's a person who gets paid to, go to these events and take pictures and, and be a part of, watching this and documenting these things. And I was just like, well, why can't I do that? I love sports. And I've always been a decent writer, I guess, So I was like, maybe I could put those two things together. And that's kind of where that dream started. And I went to Georgia State. Graduated with a journalism degree, and I immediately got a job at the Oconee Enterprise here. It's in Whitesville, Georgia, probably about 15 minutes from Athens. So I cut my teeth kind of, with them. They gave me my first opportunity to be a sports reporter, and then I moved up to sports editor there, and I was there for, I want to say 5 years. And then I went over to the Athens Banner Herald, which is the newspaper in Athens, which that was the paper I grew up reading. And so that was a dream come true. Man, I get to actually write for this paper that, I used to pick up every Saturday morning and Friday morning and read about the high school games. And I was able to do that for about 6 months. And then Shannon Terry reached out and, this On 3 thing was something that hadn't even started yet. And I was like, I don't even know what this is, but, I think these are good people. And I think this is a good opportunity. And, I heard a lot of good things from people that I trust. And, I jumped on it, and this thing is turned into a really big thing, and he's really respected in what he's done at Rivals and 24/7. So he's made this thing one of those things you just want to be a part of, and it's been a great experience, and I really enjoy it. I get to see some of these guys as they kind of blossom into the players we see on Sundays and Saturdays, and I've loved college football and the NFL football, high school football since as long as I can even remember. My dad would take me to games, and I've seen a lot of really good players, and I've seen a lot played in high school myself. So
right,
it's one of those things I'm just really passionate about, and I really enjoy watching football. I don't know. I can literally sit on the couch and sit there at 12 o'clock and not move again until midnight, and I would be just fine. So
yeah. Well, listening to your story, I love listening to stories because I think as a teacher coach, it's always nice to understand where they come from, where their origin stories from, what gave them that desire. And it's kind of cool to see sort of your dreams and goals come to fruition as time has gone on. And it's really neat to hear kind of how that's progressed and helped you now network into what you're doing, which I think is phenomenal. I mean, you've got an outstanding support base that I see following you through Twitter and X handles. I know that you're out there, in the trenches with these guys, watching these guys, videoing them, seeing, what they're doing day in and day out, trying to keep people updated. I have a son who lives in Monroe, and his brother-in-law is actually with the On3 group with Kansas State. He actually does the same thing that you do out there. So I get a chance to talk to him and kind of see the networking that goes on there. So I know you're doing a great job with them. I've definitely seen your reports and the things that you have written in the columns. And just like I said, again, I appreciate you being on with me tonight. And let's dive into this wide receiver room, shall we?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Coach.
No problem, man. It's my pleasure, and look forward to talking things with you here. So the first thing that we want to do is look at obviously what Coach Coley has done to the wide receiver room. I think a lot of people are sort of almost purring like a cat in a sense of how we watched this wide receiver room come to fruition this year after sort of, I won't say the dismal output that we got last year. We know the situations, we know the drops, we know the miscommunications, we know that there was a chemistry issue there, it seemed as well. We can talk about all the things that were negative, but I think what we're loving about what we're seeing this year and what Coach Coley's done, bringing those guys in from the portal, as well as seeing the ones that have stayed in the program and continue to grow in the program. I think we have brought a nucleus or a cluster of guys together, I think, that can be really special this year. So my first question to you is basically this. I know there's going to be a lot of forefront talk about the ones that we know are going to be probably starting day one. Okay. But if you had an outlier, someone necessarily, it could be someone that we're talking about, but if it's someone that we're not talking about, if there was an outlier out there that you thought we're probably talking by week 6 that we're heavily counting on, who do you think that player is going to be that everybody's going to have a buzz about by week 6 and saying, man, if he wasn't out there, we wouldn't be getting it done the way we would?
I think, you can go a lot of different places with that answer, but I'm going to go with Colbie Young. I think you really saw Georgia's offense change when he wasn't out there last year.
Yes.
We've seen this already play out with him not being out there last year,
right?
Getting suspended and everything. You start to talk about Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch. Well, this guy has a year in Georgia's program, knowing that offense. Of the guys who will probably be key contributors, he's probably the most veteran guy when it comes to, game reps. I've been in this system. I know the back doors, the trap doors to this offense. So he's going to get a little bit of heavier workload early in the season, especially, having that comfort with Gunner, because I know they probably played in practice together last year. So, that's I think you're going to realize, man, this guy is really good. And you start to kind of see when Georgia had drawn up their plans for what the 2024 season was supposed to be, not having Colbie Young in it was a big deal. And we saw how that played out.
I feel like Colbie Young is on a mission this year after the misfortunate situations that happened to him last year. If you see like one positive growth from him this year, considering that he does have 1 year under his belt, even though the lack of playing time, what do you think is going to be his best asset to help and basically contribute to the wide receiver room this year? Is he going to be more of that guy that we're going to be counting on heavily for a lot of receptions per game? Or do you think we're going to see a lot more just maybe dynamic explosives or both? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think you're talking about a guy that can go and get you those tough yards on 3rd and 7, they can run those digs across the football field and he's scared there and take that hit. And go in there and make those contested catches. And then every now and then he'll beat you up, on the 9 routes, one-on-one and go up and get the football. So when you got a young quarterback and a guy that is still trying to figure out his voice as a gun gunner or Ryan Puglisi or whoever it's going to be, having a guy that you can just say, man, I know he's down there somewhere, go get it. And he'll make something positive happen. You don't have to worry about, hey, this is going to get picked off, because I believe Colbie Jones is physical enough to go up, and if it's a bad throw, he can go break it up.
Yes.
I think he has a little more speed than I think people give him credit for. I mean, I think you'll start seeing that, especially early in the year. I think I'm trying to remember the receiver's name, the big guy they had that ended up moving the tight end a couple years ago. I'm blanking on his name.
Not sure. Wide receiver that moved to tight end for Georgia?
He moved the tight end in the NFL.
Oh, he moved to tight end in NFL. Not sure.
Anyway, I'm trying to remember his name, but he puts me in the mind of the role that Georgia had for that guy. He was a transfer as well. I'm sorry I'm blanking on his name, but I think that will be a big part of their offense, and having him being in their program for a while and being used to the physicality of the SEC. I think that's the biggest thing that comes with moving from another conference to the SEC, is that not that there aren't good football players in the ACC or the Big Ten or wherever. I think the level of physicality is a little different, just the way those guys play.
I agree too. And, the one thing that I see from him, you go back and revisit the very first game of the year last year against Clemson. Think about the back shoulder fade throw inside the red zone, basically inside the green zone, I believe. I can't recall. It was inside the 10, I believe. And he just made, a great catch from a well-adjusted throw into the back shoulder. And that's something that we truly need when we're inside. You don't realize how nice it is when you may be struggling a little bit running the football, and you've got those kind of guys that can go up and get it, like you said, with a level of physicality and be able to bring balls down that not necessarily the best thrown ball. Javon Wims did it so much for Jake Fromm back in the day when, some of those balls. Is that who you were thinking about? Was Javon Wims?
Yep.
Yeah, Javon Wims was one of those too. He made Jake Fromm look very good on a lot of throws that he made because he could go up and get it. And I agree with you. I think parallel to that, Colbie Young can do some of those same things as we look forward to seeing him this year for a full year, hopefully without distractions, and seeing what he can do and contribute. I sit there and think to myself, this could be a very simple question to answer. And a lot of people on the outside looking in would take this as sort of a simple question. But I really want you to dive a little bit deeper than the question asked itself. How impactful has it been that we have Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas from the transfer portal this year to add to the wide receiver room? What is your thoughts on just how impactful they are in that room going into this 2025 season?
I think having both of those guys transforms their offense. I mean, you talk about Colbie will be on one side, but then on the other side, you'll look over there and it'll be another 6'6" monster that can do a lot of the same things. And he's played in the SEC before. I mean, Noah Thomas has been a starter in the SEC program already, and he's got some of that. He already knows what it is when it comes to playing in the SEC with the physicality part of it. The only thing he's going to have to do is get comfortable with playing with Gunnar Stockton or Ryan Puglisi, and also playing in Georgia's system itself.
Right.
Having another bookend kind of frames your offense, because now you can say, well, these are my two outside guys, and occasionally you can bring them in the tights and you can block. Because now I think that was another piece of Georgia's team that didn't really get to exist. It was that the receivers weren't big and physical enough to really have an impact blocking down the football field. So that's where you start to get these explosive runs that everyone likes to talk about. It's not just the guys in the front. It's not the 5 offensive linemen, the tight end all the time. It's 10, 15 yards down the football field, big bodies, guys bodying up and creating those lanes. And I think having Noah Thomas and Colbie Young will be a big part of that. And Zachariah Branch is just the explosive sprinkles on the cake that you get when you got a guy with that kind of speed and electric ability.
Yeah. And, that's something that everybody puts out there, but I like the way you said it. You said it transforms our offensive, platform of what we're trying to do. I really like the thought process that you talked about, the blocking scheme as well in our run. When you look at the screen game, which so many people want to hang their head down when we don't run it well, or we run a fast screen or a jailbreak screen or something that just doesn't hit right, or a lineman misses his block and the wide receiver misses his cut. We don't realize the framework of what those two guys could do, even on the same side of the football. Could you imagine being in 12 personnel and being in Deuce's left, and you've got Colbie and you've got Noah sitting over there as those twins, and then you've got two tight ends with Lawson and Oscar on another side. So you've got so many advantages, and you run something with Nate or, somebody out on the quick screen, just an extension of the run game, or even Zachariah for that matter. Heck, you could put him in the backfield to do it. But, and you've got those two guys out there blocking for you. I like the way you put that, because a lot of people just see the dynamics of what they're going to offer to us, with the offensive capabilities that they have. But I love the fact that it restructures, it puts those bookends as you talked about. And then on top of that, you add better blocking on the perimeter for the most part, because both of those guys, Noah Thomas has been in the FCC, and Colbie has been under Coach Kirby Smart now for a year's worth of practice. And he knows what's expected of him out there at the wide receiver position as well.
Yeah, I don't think people haven't really been able to kind of see how big these two guys are as well. Not Zachariah, but Colbie and Noah. These are two very large human beings.
Yes, they are. That can run.
They can both really run. So
yes.
It's an interesting dynamic to having both of them. I mean, and then you throw in Elias Williams if they find a way to use him at some point. That's 6'7", 6'6", and 6'5", or 6'3". So those are big men.
I tell you what, and it's unique because you got so much ceiling potential for those kind of kids. Because, I know you and I've discussed it many times, where I think a lot of people feel this way about Elias because of his size and his frame, that he also could fit that framework of playing that outside position at X, because of the juggernaut that Todd Hartley's been, recruiting at for the last, it seems like 5 or 6 years. I mean, we have not gone without an elite type player at the tight end position, or even when you put 2 in and then now 3 in, you almost have to look at them in groups of 3 as clusters, as my buddy John says all the time, run the damn 13 personnel. Honestly, we could, and we could run it with 2 different groups and be solid with it, honestly, if we wanted to. Absolutely. Those are great things to think on. And I like that because it takes it kind of an extension to what we already know about what those two are going to bring to the table. But I love hearing how you said that. It really does parallel to transform us into, I think, a better dynamic looking offensive group as a unit, especially something we want to see from the wide receiver core. Next question for you, and this is going to be a tough one because I think we're all waiting as the audience hears these people we're talking about. They're like, well, what about everybody else? When I think about Dillon Bell, who's a senior this year, obviously is a leader out there on the field, has contributed heavily over his 4 years at Georgia. And, you think about someone like Landon Humphreys, who's now going into his next year, coming out of the transfer portal, very similar to Kobe Young, has stayed around and continued to contribute. You look at Sacovie White, another kid that's twitchy that I think, coming from Cass High School, I know him very well. And, it's something that looking at him being a compliment in that slot position too. I mean, you can even go down to where we're talking about like what, from the spring game when Jeremy Bell was showing out, running the slot fade, catching the football. We watched the dunk, as we saw in the basketball when they were out there doing the count with the kids and him dunking over the top of people, showing his vertical ability. I mean, there's so much potential there. And then again, you're not even talking about the new incumbents of the new freshmen that are going to be in this year as well. So I'm just curious to know where you think are going to be contributing. Are there going to be multiple guys that we're going to be talking about in this group, or do you think that they're going to actually be stepping up and being a contributor, just like we've been talking about with Colbie and Noah and Zachariah?
Yeah, I think this will be that group that you just named will be every game. It will be a different one of those guys that steps into a role because they all do really different things. You talk about Dillon Bell. He's a guy that's played a little running back. He's played in the slot. He's played outside. And I think he probably fits better in the slot. He probably fits better in that hybrid running back role. He's such a big and physical receiver that he's just, that's another thing that having Noah Thomas and Kobe Young does for your offense. It moves Dillon Bell into a position where you can use him as the gadget guy. Sacovie White is one that I've seen a lot of just because of covering him in high school and then seeing him on the 7-on-7 circuit. Him and Zachariah Branch will coexist because they're both very different in what they do. Zachariah is the explosive, fast, twitchy, exciting player. Sacovie White can make the above the rim plays, even though they're nearly the same size. I don't think he's quite as fast, but I think Sacovie's got a little of that. I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but he'll hit you. I mean, he will hit you. So he's one of those guys you can have him out there. He could play the X sometimes, and he can play the Y sometimes, just because he's so physical and he can play above the rim. So, and you got endless options. I mean, Jeremy Bell's one that never gets talked about, but that dude can fly. He literally can fly. Like, that having that ability to be able to play above the rim with a young quarterback again, I mean, you just find ways to get the football to these athletes, and there's a lot of them. I mean, London Humphreys probably one of the fastest guys on the team.
Yep.
And that doesn't even mention Talyn Taylor, CJ Wiley, you know, both of those guys I think could have a role this year. And then you talk about maybe Landon Roldan is a guy who's popped up and he's made some plays in the spring and in, you know, this fall camp. So the wide receiver core this is as, you know, as versatile and unique that I've seen Georgia have in recent memory. I mean, they've had George Pickens, you know, but Brock Bowers, and you know, they've had really good players, but it's like this group, you can interchange it and you can almost package it, you know, with certain players based off their different skill sets, and you won't have any drop off.
You won't have any drop off. That's exactly what I was about to extend off what you said. When you rotate guys in groups of threes because of your personnel with tight end, whatever it may be, if you're rotating all fours, I really don't think you have a massive amount of drop off. Maybe it might limit what you can do with checking me at the line of scrimmage and changing things for audibles. But as far as just pure outright, route running and being able to go catch the football and do your job, I think we've got a solid group of kids across the board. When you mentioned George Pickens, you know, you think about the personnel that we complimented with George Pickens. It seemed like we had maybe 2, possibly 3, because then you're getting into, you look at, I don't even want to mention the one that went to Alabama, but basically when you look at the, why am I losing his name? The one that went to Texas that we had, that was
Donte Mitchell.
Yeah, Donte A.D. Mitchell. You know, you think about it, there was maybe 1, maybe 2 that we were counting on to make those catches for us. I really feel like you could actually put 5 or 6 out there, like you said, rotate them in groups of 3 almost, and you have the opportunity to see them go out there and shine. And as you said, not a lot of drop off. And, you know, Landon Roldan is another one that I'd have forgotten about with my profile. I'm sorry there, buddy. I wish I could have gotten you a pick up there too. I got Thomas Blackshear, but forgot to look at Landon Roldan. But, you know, again, it just shows you the amount of potential that we have coming in this year. So I really like what you got to say about Dillon Bell. I think he's going to be a contributor. He's going to add that leadership value that you want, not to mention the ones that have got the little blue concussion hats on their head, which obviously the coaches have to come together and believe in that, because that's not something you just hand out to every kid. So for, you know, the London Humphreys and for, you know, Colbie Young to be wearing those as part of the receiver core and seeing them, you know, do well with that, that just tells you the leadership that you have in that room. It tells you what James Coley's doing as well with that group. And obviously, I think it's a very exciting time in that wide receiver room to see good things happen this year for Georgia football. Now, let's take that one last little step here and let's talk about the young bucks. And I know more than likely we saw a lot of them in the spring game having a good time, enjoying themselves, getting to go out with the 2s and the 3s to be able to rotate in and play a little bit. But if you add Landon Roldan to this group along with Thomas Blackshear, who's the only one who came in, I believe, during the summer, he was the only one that was not a mid-year of that group. If there's any of these youngins that's going to have the opportunity to shine when they get their number called, who do you think we're probably looking at first that's going to get their number called, that's going to go out there and execute and shine for us, and we're having good vibes about this youngin?
Talyn Taylor is the one that everyone points to. I mean, that's the dude that he was the 5-star. He's the one that's been making plays in camp. You know, his game, he's got a chance to be really special at Georgia. Yes. Maybe immediately. I mean, we'll kind of see how he gets kind of peppered in. I mean, we just mentioned this group of older guys that have a chance to play on Sundays. I mean, every those people we've been talking about to play on Sunday at some point, and this young man is going to be pushing to play.
Yes,
and just kind of tells you where he is as a player. He can play any position in the receiving on the football field. He can do it. CJ Wiley's got a chance just because he's so physically mature, and he's right. He's basically the same as the other 2 guys, Colbie and Noah. He's got a lot of their same attributes. He might be faster than both of them. So he's one that can stretch the field. He'll play, and he'll make a big player too, early in the season as well.
Good deal. I sit there and think as you're talking about these guys, and I think another thing that we can add to the attributes of this wide receiver room is that if none of these kids decide to go in the portal and they're very hungry to stay where they're at and develop and progress at UGA, we've got a massive amount of depth. So we could lose 3 receivers this year, honestly, and still be in great shape for next year and the year after. I just think that the depth that we're beginning to see in those ranks makes me feel good, because if we end up having maybe 2, possibly 3 go to the NFL, I feel like what replaces them will be just as good and will be in just as good of shape the following year as well. So I like the fact that you hit on that too. But those are great takes. CJ Wiley, we got to see show out in the spring game, made some great catches. And I know these guys are working against 2s and 3s, but that's what gives them the momentum when you're practicing them. Coach Smart is obviously out there saying, hey, they got good reps with the 2s today. When they're seeing those reps, when they're increasing and going in with the bigger groups, the ones that, you're going to be counting on Saturday to win, that's where you feel like you're going to have more winning football, because you have a bigger amount of kids who are contributing and not screwing up, not giving you the feeling of, hey, we can't play this kid. He's not going to be able to execute the way we want to.
Yeah.
So I really like the fact of how you put everything together in a nice little package there. And honestly, in these groupings that we see here, I'm very excited about each one of them. There's not one kid that we've talked about where I'm sitting there going, I don't see where they're, I don't see if their potential is going to be unlocked here. I think each kid is going to contribute in their own way. And it's hopefully going to start with, the groupings that we talked about to start with. So that's some good stuff with you, Jeremy. As we close up every time, I appreciate your time with me tonight, Jeremy. It's been awesome. I'm going to be doing some breakdowns later, actually, on a couple of these receivers that Jeremy's been talking about. I definitely want to hit on Zachariah Branch. I'm going to be hitting on Noah Thomas, but I'm also going to be talking about some of the other receivers, the veteran guys that have still, that have been at UGA now for longer than just that 1 year, and looking forward to breaking these guys down for you so that you stick around and be sure to catch that part of the show as well. But Jeremy, before I let you go, brother, I wanted to let thank you for being on the show with me tonight. I appreciate all your insight. For all the viewers out there, the people who are watching and catching this maybe at the tail end, or maybe have got a chance to see the whole show here with this segment, let them know who you are, where we can find you, all the handles out there, and so they can catch all your great content.
Yeah, you can find me. I'm on Twitter, Jeremy_Johnson_O. That's my Twitter. I'm on Dawgs HQ. We're on the message board. It's called the Dog Walk. You can come in there and chat with us. Me, Rusty Manziel, Jake Rowe, Jake Roosh. We all on there having a good time every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about football all the time. Sometimes we're talking just movies and stuff. So come in there and talk with us, and check out our content. We talking recruiting, and we got daily updates on what's going on over there at practice, and a lot of good stuff going on at Dawgs HQ.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, I can't thank you enough. As I said before, I appreciate you taking your time, your busy time off to be with me this evening. I wish you the best in all that you're doing. I hope continued success with what you're doing. And thank you again for talking the wide receiver room with me tonight.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. I love the show. And I definitely appreciate you for having me on.
Georgia Sports Autographs is built by collectors for collectors. They know what fans want because they've been in your shoes, hunting for that perfect piece, the right signature in the right spot. At every signing, Georgia Sports Autographs make sure it's done right, using the proper ink, following best practices, and paying attention to every detail so you end up with a product you'll be proud to display. They've already worked with many of Georgia's top athletes, and their network gives them access to just about anything you can imagine. If you don't see it listed, don't assume it can't be done. Chances are they can get it for you. Georgia Sports Autograph tests themselves with every event, always improving, always delivering for the ultimate addition to your collection. Trust the team that treats every autograph like its own. Georgia Sports Autographs, where every signature tells a story.
It was awesome having Jeremy on the show, and I really appreciate his intel of what he was able to give me from the wide receiver room and how excited we are as Bulldog fans this year. I think there's a level of excitement, that Neil mentioned a while ago about being very excited about our wide receiver room and the potential that they bring under Coach Coley and what he has done magnificently from the way he's recruited and everything that's gone on with him there. And it's just been unreal seeing how it's developed over the years, and what we've got coming back and at Gunnar Stockton's arsenal is going to be really nice to see. But it all comes down to the fact too, we need the complementary run game. We need the opportunity to see that balance that we want to see back with Georgia football. And I think that just opens up everything that we want to be able to do
with our passing game and the passing coordination that we're going to be looking at this year that has some very exciting talent that we want to look at. I want to thank Jeremy for that. I also want to thank my sponsor with Georgia Sports Autographs. Had the opportunity to partner with them over this past month and all the opportunities they're giving me. As you can see behind me here, I've got free merch on the chairs with Trevor Etienne. You can see Noah Thomas jersey. I think I got a Tyke Smith jersey back there as well. All signed, authentic merch. And you'll notice that I put a goal up in my YouTube board there. If you have the opportunity and sign in with a super chat for $5, I will be putting you in for a 3-time entry for the purpose of a drawing on August 29th, the Friday before we open up against Marshall on that Saturday. And I'm going to be putting you in 3 times instead of just once. If you want just a one-time entry, you can actually join the website that I have now. It's fresh. It's new. It's just about 2 weeks old at www.coachhayeshudl.com. I was able to establish that and get it going. And it's basically just going to be a place where I can have a hub now for all of my content that I can put in there, from just breakdowns to analysis to recruit details, everything that's going on. And it's just been growing. I can't thank my group enough that's helped me through the process. And for you that are in the chat tonight, a lot of you have been with me since the beginning. You've supported me from the beginning. And I can't thank you enough for all your support through this process. So I just wanted to open up a little bit because I want to have a little come to Jesus meeting with some people, because I know in today's time we're sitting here focused on the NIL concepts and, allocations of funds and revenue sharing and kids being driven more by money. And we know that we heard Coach Smart say at SEC Media Days that we're looking for those relationships over the transactions. And a lot of that sometimes falls on deaf ears, especially to the younger generation, because to me, in today's world and everything that we do, money drives everything that we do. If you look at the sponsorships of all the different programs and how college football and revenue generation of what it's creating, I mean, it's all driven by money. But if you look at it from just a standard of, money kind of is a root of all evil at times too, and it has caused a lot of dissent in how we view college football. What I wanted to do is to give you a quick insert right here from Coach Hammock. He is the head coach at Northern Illinois, the team that actually beat Notre Dame last year in South Bend. And I want to let you hear just a very transparent head coach about his team and in the NIL era, how he feels about that. I thought it was just a genuine response. I thought it was great. I thought it had a lot of savvy to it, and I wanted it to be something that helped you understand that Coach Smart is not the only one that feels this way. He's not blowing smoke up your butt by trying to say these kinds of things, because I promise you, through the NIL era, no matter how much money is spent, what's generationally going to make a kid better is being able to come in, stick to their guns, develop, grow, fail, grow, continue to get better, and eventually have that opportunity as maybe a junior year or senior year, have the chance to sign an NFL contract of their dreams and move on and have generational wealth for them and their family, along with the development that allows them to stay in the NFL past that 4-year window that typically most rookies sign going in. Some don't even make it through that 4-year window. So I just wanted you to listen real quick. This is, I think, a very genuine response. And this is Coach Hammock again, the head coach for Northern Illinois University.
To be honest with you, I love the challenge. It don't bother me one bit, because you know what? In life, you're going to make decisions, right? Sometimes it's going to work in your favor and sometimes it's not. I told our team the other day, we lost all these guys. Let's see who plays. So it's all good when people put it on Twitter, hey, all glory to God, I'm going in the transfer portal. Let's see if they play. How many of those guys going to play or travel or get snaps? I was going to tweet something the other day, a picture of me, and say, you know what? I enjoyed my college experience. I didn't get one dime, but the lessons I learned was more valuable than any money you can ever pay me. And I appreciate that, because that is long term. People are losing the fact that this is short term. I coached in the National Football League for 5 years. 5 years, right? Don't lose focus of what the long term. Get your degree. Learn valuable lessons that's going to help you in the long term of your life. That's the whole purpose. This is a transition from being a kid to a grown-up. And I hope people don't lose focus of that. Everybody's talking about everything else besides what is the most important thing for going to college. Because if you're going to college to go get a couple dollars, you might as well go get a job. This is too hard to go get a couple dollars. Learn the lessons that you need to learn to be successful in life for the next 40 to 50 years of your life. I would do it again for free, because of the things I learned. That's why I'm standing here today, because of what I learned in college, not because of how much somebody gave me. That's what I would tell people. And parents, they need to learn that lesson too. Stop trying to live through your kids. Go teach your kids what are the things they need to learn to be successful. That's what I'm telling my kids. I don't care about no NIL, no revenue share. I can care less. You need to learn things in college to get you prepared for life, to be a father, a husband, to work, everything else. Those are the most important things. That's what people are missing, in my opinion.
I'm just going to raise my hand to that and give a big, huge amen. And I know that more than likely he fits the mentality of what we would refer to as an old school guy. Probably mentions, back in the day, probably talks about the fact that he wants you to get off his lawn. He is one of those OG kind of guys that went to school and played and learned and developed and became the man he was, the husband, the father, as he mentioned, and became the better person that he was. And, uniquely enough, even being in the NFL, he saw how those kids developed over time. And I really like the way he puts it, because just because it may look like the grass is greener on the other side, as I saw somebody mention that in the comments, I sit there and think to myself, how is it necessarily going to be greener? Because it may seem like there is a better opportunity out there. Now, just like we were talking about earlier, I couldn't remember A.D. Mitchell, for example, but A.D. Mitchell is a perfect example of someone who needed to move through the transfer portal because it was a family, it was personal, something that needed to happen so that he could be closer to his family. I sure did miss him his last year. I certainly wish he could have contributed as a Georgia Bulldog, but I understood that situation. But unfortunately, I would say there's probably more of a higher percentage. There is a majority that are leaving for the wrong reasons, because they don't see the long-term goals and achievements that they can get from the possible move. And you heard Coach say just a second ago, just because you leave, look and see what happens. Are they still playing? Are they playing at all? Because when it comes down to it, you may be honestly in a situation where you feel good about the move, everything's great, but then you go to a program where you don't have to work as hard, you're more settled in, you're comfortable, you're entitled in a sense, and all of a sudden you're not being developed the way you should. You end up being a lower round draft pick in the NFL if you're drafted at all, and then all of a sudden these NFL talent guys, they want development from the college level. They need to bring you in as an employee to do their job. They don't want to come in and really try to develop you more. They're going to coach your ass off and they're going to make you a better player, but development should be taken care of at the college level. And that's the reason why they love Coach Smart. They love his program, because he's doing it in that mentality with a coach's ideal of that mindset. And so I say a hallelujah. Thank you for that, Coach Hammock from Northern Illinois. I just really love what he had to say there. Just had to throw that out there. I wasn't even planning on putting that into the show tonight, but I just couldn't stand it. I wanted you guys, those of you who are following me, to listen to that and to have just a little bit of an amen corner with me there for a second, because no matter what happens, I do think that longevity and the development of players is going to continue to go by the brand of what Coach Smart talks about with the development of relationships over those transactions, and the fact that if you develop a kid, you're developing him for the rest of his life, not just for a 4 to 5 year window. The thing that I've been wanting to do is let some people know, because I'm hearing that I've got a little bit of issue with the app situation. So I'll make sure I get that fixed. Josh, I'm sorry for the inconvenience of the QR code with Georgia Sports Autographs. I will get that. I'll get that fixed for you. But Roger Sutton, Sam Mathis are the owners of that company. If you look up georgiasportsautographs.com, you should be able to go to their merch sites and be able to see all their inventory. I'll be able to try to help you later with that, but I'll definitely see why the QR code is not working with you. I apologize for that, because definitely this merch that I've got is quality stuff. I watched it firsthand when I was there with them that day. I mean, it took a village for them to put that together, and it was so cool, just like a family, man. Welcomed me in. I mean, heck, by the time it was over with, I felt like I was part of the fam, so I couldn't thank them enough. But again, wanting to go in and talk, Coach Smart after his first practice of the fall, you guys have, the people who watch this on the outside looking in from a coach's perspective, I think that the way that it's set up is you've got to kind of start off with that positive mentality, which I think realistically, Coach Smart started off very positively. For the first time ever, I think we were as healthy as we have been going into fall. He was very excited about the leadership. And I think really what I notice in him when I'm listening to him, I can read someone pretty well that's just trying to go through the motions of answering questions versus the fact of, really being genuine with how they're responding. I really think he's excited about this group. He loves their energy. I think he likes the fact that he has younger kids who are pushing the older kids, and the older kids are accepting that responsibility. Honestly, from this standpoint, what I would love to see is I would love to see him just continue to talk the way he is, to continue to try to grow the program from the inside out, continue to work with these guys, see what the long-term development comes from, to take these kids who haven't gone into the portal, who have been fighting their ass off for the last 2 or 3 years, to finally see them in a position of playing time where you've got like a Corey Thomas fighting for that strong safety position, a Dillon Everett who has stayed around and worked his tail off to stay at that starting corner position that more than likely is going to put him on a day one draft pick this year. You got a Daniel Harris who's fought his tail off through thick and thin and has developed and become a quality cornerback for us this year, fighting his butt off right now still with DeMelo Jones and Ellis Robinson for that one cornerback spot that you've got over on the other side. So I like the way he's approaching this, but also too, I love the fact of what he is implementing, and something that I think is really cool is the blue concussion hat concept with his fire, passion, and energy logo. People who he feels really carry that. I mean, not just for a day's time. You got to understand, you got to give this out to kids who are going to, it's a part of their soul. It's not just something where they come out one day and they give you false chatter and they make you think they're excited. It's something that you carry with yourself all day long. And I'm telling you, when the coaching staff meets, I know without a doubt there is an opportunity that he would, they sit down as a staff and they sit there and think to themselves as they correlate with their guys, and they say, well, I think this guy really needs one. And the other guys are over there going, yeah, I think he does too, coach. I watch what he does every day. He's whooping my ass, and you say, well, you kind of giggle at that. And then you're like, cool, I picked one I really think fits that. But it's I'm sure a group collaboration of who's in those blue hats. And you don't get it by chance. You get it because you are truly showing that. And I've noticed as the fall has progressed, there's a couple more that we're seeing in those blue hats, which is really cool too. But with that, I was going to say with Mallory, I see this comment here, Everett, talk about development. Without a doubt. I mean, my goodness, he's unreal. How he's gone. I mean, I remember really having to fight for him because everybody wanted to fire him, 2 years ago. And now you see he's a staple for our defensive secondary. I mean, a leader and a guy that we're really looking to count on this year. But I love the fact that Coach, after fall practice 1, he had some things that he wanted to say, and I look at my notes, things that were brought up like J.J. Hahn, Drew Bobo, Juan Gaston, Chris Cole, Ellis Robinson, Colbie Young, Elijah Griffin, Rashawn Dinkins, of all people, who was a summer transfer in, just like Thomas Blackshear. When I broke him down as a recruit coming in, I was really sad because he's not going to be a mid-year kid. But, sometimes that happens. But I know he's had some buzz being talked about. And not to mention, the edge that we brought in from the Army, Elo Mendoza, who I think I'm very excited about as well, because there's just so much of that unlocked potential and such high ceilings for all these kids we're talking about. I could sit here for days and go down that rabbit hole and talk about the potential of all these kids. But what I love about it, as you watch here, just this is courtesy of Georgia Football, at Georgia Football, through their X account. They put out really good film material. You see Zion Branch, and then there's Zachariah Branch coming in right behind him with a blue hat on, as you can see. There's J.J. Hand right there as well, coming in too with the blue hat. You can see Terrell Foster, a leader on the linebacker core, bringing that fire, passion, and energy. Christian Miller, he's going to be a hoss this year on defensive line. Love what I see. Chauncey Bowens is another one. I think he ends up wrapping up the number 2 spot. C.J. Allen at linebacker. There you got Josh Horton from Miami making a play as well. Look at Drew Bobo turning around at center. By God, I love the center having the blue hat. Not to mention Talyn Taylor making a great play there from Ryan Puglisi. But you also see Gunner Stockton here make a throw. There you got CJ with the blue hat. You see Terrell. There's Zachariah on looks like a punt return, I believe, right there. But you also see Gunner Stockton here in just a second make a throw with his blue hat there on, which you definitely want your starting quarterback to have, and see him make a throw to another blue hat, Colbie Young. So, we can have a lot of buzz about what we see in this right here. And, I'm looking at just all the different things that we are excited about. We got to understand that they've got to develop these kids. So that means a lot of things good happened with the 2s and the 3s. But when you got good on good, competition was stiff. Defense probably outplayed the offense just a little bit. I know that a lot of people talked about Daniel Calhoun getting beat on some one-on-one reps and in team. But guys, that's what you want to see happen. If you've got a guy that's starting, you want to be able to threaten him to say, listen, there's any day you could be fired. And that puts that, the FPE, the fire, passion, and energy into a player to make them want to, get better. That's how you work and motivate as a coach. I mean, that's what you've got to do. But I know there's people out there talking about Juan Gaston. Juan Gaston's got to get in shape. He's a big kid, but the longevity of being out there for a 4-quarter game, Coach Smart talked about it in his presser that he's got to work to get in shape and be able to sustain a 4-quarter game if he's going to play at that position. But you've got people like Michael Uni. You've got people, Bo Hewley. You've got Merriweather. There's a lot of guys that they can actually want to put in that position. I just think if we got to look at it, the starting 5 has to have a chemistry that's beyond no other. Our tackle play has got to improve, and our guard center guard combos have really got to improve as well, because that's how they communicate in pass pro. But it's also got to be something this year that they have got to take it personal, that the running game sucked last year, and they've got to improve upon that. They were dead almost last in the SEC last year running the football. Just ahead of LSU. And I know that's something every day that Coach Smart is in Coach Searles' ear about. He's in Coach Bobo's ear about. And I know if we have that balance that's brought back in our running game, we're going to see that open up our passing game as well. So I'm excited about the leadership that we're seeing from all the blue hats that we've got coming out there. And like I said, there's a lot of them right now that I wrote down, with Zachariah Branch, Drew Bobo, Terrell Foster, CJ Allen, Gunnar Stockton, Colbie Young. London Humphreys is another one that's in a blue hat as well. I know they've added a few more since then and on top of that. So I'm really excited to see the leadership that we're getting from these guys. And I know without a doubt, those blue hats that are on these guys are for a reason. And that means that we've got a lot of leaders trying to step up and lead this football team. And, I have to say it that I really feel like being under the radar like we are right now, I think we're in great shape. Being right now preseason AP at number 5, I think we're in great shape. We're in a perfect spot, and there's good things to look forward to as we move into Scrimmage 2 this coming weekend, and obviously August 30th against Marshall. Now, wide receiver room, okay? These guys, in no particular order, I'm going to break down a few of them because I would love to break down them all, but I just don't have time for that. I wanted to make sure that you just kind of saw from my perspective some of the players that we are going to be looking to heavily count on. Even though at the forefront, we kind of have an idea of who that starting 3 group will be, what I call the Z and the X and the H. That's what my position players were for those 3 out of personnel when you're doing 11 personnel, which is one back, one tight, one back, one tight end. So I'm looking at basically the slot and your 2 outside guys. Now, most people have kind of got it penciled in that you would think that Colbie Young and Noah Thomas would be a great ZX combo. But I think you're probably going to see that combo more inside the red zone or on the plus side of the field, or in situational things like where it's 3rd and long, maybe even going forward on 4th down and looking for back shoulder throws. But I even like how Jeremy talked about it, where you put those guys in twins and all of a sudden you run a flare route with Zachariah, with Nate or something like that. And you got 2 big cliffs out there that are blocking for you. And you know that they're going to have to do that if they're going to play for Coach Smart. So it's really nice to see the opportunity for them to do well. And, going forward, I think it's an awesome thing to see all the potential that is unlocked. So if you look at here, I've got Zachariah Branch, I've got Colbie, I've got Noah, I've even got Sacovie White, who I think is another kid that we can install in at the slot position, who's also very twitchy, maybe not as fast as Zachariah is, but he definitely has the hops, he has the vert, he goes up and gets the football, he's a good route runner, and being in the slot, he needs to be twitchy in order to be able to move on outside linebackers, safeties, nickels that are covering him in coverage. So the first one that I wanted to do is I wanted to focus out of this group, I wanted to focus on the 2 portal guys. Okay. So the first guy that I'm going to talk about, and all the film I've got from him that's live that gives us a little bit of understanding of what he does, is Zachariah Branch at USC. the one thing that we're going to see from him is definitely just this high velocity kid playing from the slot position. Twitchy is going to be a zone nightmare. He's going to be a man-to-man nightmare because of his ability. He doesn't even look like he's running a lot of the times. And then all of a sudden he just takes off and his burst is unbelievable. And he'll get that extra 4 or 5 yards when he's running with the football. It's amazing how he just makes people look like right here. He's just kind of, and all of a sudden, bam, he just takes off and explodes up through the hole. I just see him being someone for the first time that we have a guy dynamically that can take the ball to the house, that can give us that explosive catch, but also take it to the zone as well. Probably the first person we've had since Ladd in that position that does that kind of work, not only working to get open, but also making catches like that right there, getting over the top of a defense or over the top of a single defender that's covering him in man like a nickel or a strong safety would be. His special team play is going to be something outside of our minds that we haven't seen as well. He's going to be returning punts, probably returning kicks as well. I don't know the opportunity. They'll probably kick away from him a lot. He's probably going to have to fair catch a few, but there's going to be a couple of them out there that give him the opportunity to run with a football, to be able to be explosive, and that's something we want to see. What I like about with Zachariah, though, is because of his slot ability, we can slide him across the formations and do a lot of him that it basically becomes an extension of the run game. It'd be like if you had a 2-by-1 set and you're in 20 personnel, which is 2 backs, no tight ends, and you had Zachariah and Nate in the backfield at the same time. You could do so much crisscross motion out. You would cause defenses a nightmare when they're trying to focus on Colbie and say, Noah out wide at ZNX, and then you got Zachariah going in motion and Nate going the other way, and you just got guys everywhere with speed and dynamics that can do a great job. Zachariah, I met him this past week with the Georgia Sports Autograph Group. Really excited about he is a calm kid who seems to have a very good head on his shoulders. The reason why he's probably got a blue hat on, because he just carries himself very well. Highly complimentary of Coach Bobo, for all you Bobo haters out there. Really loves his offense because he says Bobo sticks to his guns and what he wants to do. And he says he likes how he's implementing him in the offense. He mentioned that to me, and I thought that was really cool to hear because I've been fighting against all those people who are Bobo haters out there. And I hope to honestly tell you the truth that he proves everybody wrong this year. All those guys that really don't like Coach Bobo, and, let him see him go to work and do his job. So Zachariah Branch from USC transfer portal in is going to be a massive impact for us this year in special teams and at the slot receiver position. Like I said, really looking forward to seeing his stuff. Next, we have Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. Now, Noah's one of those who's, you want to throw the 50-50 ball to him, that's perfectly fine. We can pick a side, but again, I think it's going to be something where we're inside on the positive side of the field, which means we're on our side of the 50. Definitely going to be a red zone nightmare for people because you got Colbie going deep on a one-on-one. You've got Noah coming across on a dig or some kind of shallow cross, and you've got these big targets that you can throw to that are not scared to go up and get the football. And it's something to see and something to enjoy because I like what I see from him, not only from his route tree, because a lot of people think that all you do with him is just throw up the 9-ball to him or the back shoulder fade, which I'm sure we will implement with him. But to me, he has a high-quality 50-50 outside, but they become massively large targets in zone. So you got teams that drop in zone. If they are zone catchers, they can find ways to get open. They will do that. And, the way I look at it, I really feel like that Noah is going to end up being that really good possession receiver that we need on 3rd and 7 or 2nd and 5, where we're passing off of it with play action. And he becomes that guy that is catching the ball on a dig route or a comeback route or, running the whip or whatever it may be, because as tall as he is, you don't think he can move very well, but he does show good twitch, honestly, for a guy his size. And, he did get banged up in the G-Day game, so we didn't get a chance to watch him. Had this kind of combo with what we're looking at with him and Young being the potentials out on the outside. But that doesn't mean that they're always going to be there, but it could be situational as well. That's Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. Definitely a valuable asset to the Georgia Bulldog wide receiver room. I just hope and pray that he can get the offense under his belt well enough where situationally that's going to be something that he's going to be doing a good job with. So, the next group that I'm going to look at, there's a lot of people to talk about because I know in the chat here, I'm looking at a lot of people just giving me some, thoughts on different people. And
I really would love to sit down and break Sacovie down. We don't have a ton of film on Sacovie. I would love to be able to see what he does through the year when he's situational out there. Maybe he's the backup to Zach Branch, or maybe he gets to go in as much as Zach does with, like I said, personnel groupings. More film will help me see what he can do and what his potential is. I know what we talked about with last year, seeing him and the potential he has. Jeremy Bell has stepped up. A lot of people don't realize Jeremy Bell's in the same class with Sacovie. He was the one that kind of got forgotten about because he came in late. Since Nitro Tuggle's departure, him and Sacovie are the only two that's left. And I don't know if you know this or not, he showed out in the G-Day game. We all know we had the little viral video of him at the camp where he jumped over like 3 ball players and slam dunked the ball. He's got the vert, he's got the hops, but what I saw in the G-Day game, he's got the route running down pretty well too, running the slot fade just like Zachariah did. Didn't see a full route tree from him, but obviously if he can go out there and be situational and catch the football and extend the defense, it's all about taking the defense and separate them, getting those guys on verts and getting the safeties out of there, getting the corners out of there so that you can have your underneath guys, your dynamic guys with twitch, get underneath all the linebacker play, and then you've got one-on-ones all day long and you're just wreaking havoc. But Jeremy's one of those guys as I was talking about a while ago from Jeremy Johnson. He's a guy that's just, outright fast, and he has the ability to extend the defense, which is something you want to see. Does he get a chance to play a lot this year? Because we seem to be heavily top heavy with some good, reliable receivers. Yeah, probably so. But I think Jeremy gets to come in situationally as well on top of that. So I'm excited for, his potential just because of what I saw in the G-Day game. The one that's going to be I feel like this guy's kind of gotten pushed down to the bottom, and that's Dillon Bell. Dillon Bell has been around, another one who has stayed the course, never transferred. He's realized his development is going to be keen if he stays at the University of Georgia. He brings senior leadership. I really do think that he is going to improve and be what we need in that senior room. I really wish to see a blue hat on top of his head. That kind of bothers me because you think with being the oldest guy in there, he needs to be really coaching those guys up and not having Coach Smart holler at their ass on the sideline because why is Coach Coley the only one that's doing the coaching? You got to have leadership that's being led by your team. That's a special thing. When you got halftime and you need to do some ass chewing and you've said your part and you've broken the dry erase board and you've turned red in the face and almost passed out from high blood pressure, and you have teammates that get in other people's faces, not violently, but they get in other people's faces and they step up to basically say, you're going to do your job or you're not going to be on the field. That's the kind of leadership you want a team to have, because typically teams that are led by leaders of that team that are players, that's an elite group of guys. And when you have that, that's something special. And I think Coach Smart sees that. I think the staff sees that. And I think that's why there's this sort of underlying feeling of, it's nice to go out to practice. It's nice to go out there when you got a team-led team that's, working everything up, and all you've got to do is facilitate their growth. You've got to motivate them. You've got to go out and get better. You've got to, focus on the fundamentals of things and execute. And that's every coach wants to do that. That's simple. But having them do that and go out every day and do it at a high level, that's what makes a good team to me great. And as most people say here in the University of Georgia and the people who love their Georgia Bulldogs, we want to be elite. So people in the chat right now, before I dive into these other two, Scott, I hear you in here. Appreciate you joining the chat as well. Yeah, like I said, man, I get a little chance to talk a little ball. I'm definitely going to be preaching. The first, second, and third worst wide receivers in the SEC by drop rate, and the nation's worst as a team. That's something. It's almost like it's a dream. Like we had a bad dream that happened last year, right? That can't happen this year, and it won't. I don't think it will, because the chemistry is different. The makeup is different. We're already seeing that from what we saw in the G-Day game and already what we're seeing in fall practice as well. So I think that we're seeing a lot of different things that just change the dynamics. Delise, it looks like I've got you in here. Delise with Hillsfield Media. Chauncey Bowens, I feel, is going to be insane. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, Chauncey Bowens is going to be probably running back too. He surprised me in the G-Day game. He's lost a little weight. He's twitchier. He's quicker. Seeing him catch the ball out of the backfield, put his foot in the ground, turn, and full speed immediately and leave a guy behind that was chasing him in man-on-man, that made me realize this kid could be special for us this year. And honestly, with Roderick Robinson and Josh McCray, who are still trying to get back to see a full season, Josh McCray's got to get back in shape. I know he's been under the weather. I think it's why he hasn't been participating in much fall. Roderick Robinson really hasn't made it through a season yet. And that's something that could
be a great switch up for us. And I think because if we stay healthy, the depth that we have, we can see those rotations where Roderick Robinson can be beneficial when he's in. So can Josh McCray, because to me, they fit the same kind of framework of what we want from them as a bruising back. But I think Chauncey and Nate fit that 2-on-2 combo. And then you throw in a little bit of the other kid that came in with that running back class, Dwight Phillips, and kind of gadget him with jet sweeps and toss sweeps and pin and pulls. I think that's something that could be very special. The running back room's got to stay healthy, and I think we'll have a solid year from that running back room. The way I look at it is that the last two I want to talk about real quick are the two that came in at the same time, but yet truly haven't had a chance to prove themselves. And the first one I wanted to talk about, these two came in the portal at the same time, Colbie Young and Landon Humphreys. And, you know, when I look at Colbie Young, I think I got Colbie first. Nope, this is Landon. When I look at, not Landon, Landon Humphreys. It's funny, Landon and Roldan and the kid that came in for the freshman group and Landon Humphreys, to me, they remind me of the same kid. This guy is being sort of just not talked about. But I don't know if we realize it or not. He had some very clutch catches last year, just like in the Georgia Tech game that I was at, where we went 8 overtimes to catch the touchdown. You know, I sit there and think to myself, this kid is going to be someone special from the slot or from the Z position, which is the outside receiver, a way they intertangle with motion, things of that nature. I think that he's going to be someone that, again, is going to be that possession receiver like you're seeing here on film, that's going to be able to be kind of a zone matchup problem, because he's going to find those holes and get open and do things that I like to see, which is just straightforward north and south running. You know, he caught that fast screen right there and just put his head down, try to run over you. You know, when he's catching the ball in the Clemson game where he turns it into the touchdown, I believe this is it right here. I mean, he's not being denied that end zone right here. By God, he's going to try to run you over. And I mean, he's just like 100, maybe 75, 180 pounds maybe. And I love him because he's tough. And there's obviously a reason why he's got a blue hat on, because he's showing his leadership skills with the team. And I think that's very important as well. And, you know, I can't be more excited right now than I am for Landon Humphreys and what he can do to contribute, because all he does is add depth. And when he goes out there, there's no drop off from that position. I think that's something that's going to be beneficial for us this year. Is he going to run away from someone? Not necessarily, but he's going to catch the football if it's thrown in his vicinity, and he's going to get positive plays that move the chains. And that's something you can't ask that for anybody else with what Landon Humphreys can bring to us. And I think, honestly, that's what Coach Smart had entailed for him when he came in. So I'm looking forward to seeing Landon Humphreys actually being just a huge asset for us this year in those rotational groupings that we have. And then lastly, I've got Colbie Young. Colbie Young's set to have a great year, monster year, honestly. I know that he's probably so fired up that he's probably got his life turned around a little bit, because obviously he had a unfortunate set of events happen that became a distraction last year. It really upset the tone of how we wanted to use him, because by the time we got to the Auburn game, which I believe was the last game, it was Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn. I think when he got to that game, it was one of those where we really saw some potential in what he could do and how he could help us. He adds an additional asset to the outside of the game, because what you're noticing, very similar to Noah, we're definitely going to use him in the outside 50-50 type balls with a comeback. But look right there, just setting up in zone and being a large target for someone to throw to. And you can't ask anything more from what he's going to be able to bring. And I think, honestly, because of what he showed us last year, again, we're going to use him in personnel groupings. He's going to be a matchup nightmare inside the 20, inside the red zone. Him and Noah both will. But also, too, I look at the fact of what he can do, just, you know, running dig routes, running crossers, setting up on the curl route inside zone, and being a big body for Gunner to throw to. And obviously very reliable hands that I think is going to be a very big benefit for us this year. I expect Colbie to be the one that we're talking about by week 6. I agree with Jeremy Johnson on this. I think he's someone that we're going to be talking about week 6, as well as some of these other two. Don't get me wrong. Zachariah Branch, I think, is going to bring some things. I'm really thinking that we're going to see something from one of these other guys that we're not necessarily talking as much about. But I think if we get to the end of the season, I think Colbie Young is one that we've got to have. It's going to be talked about. Is going to be the one we're talking about at the water coolers on Monday morning after the Saturday win, and is going to be the most benefactor of being back with the team, because he realized it was almost over. It could have been taken from him. He may not ever played another down. Who knows what could have happened with his situation? I think he sees that as another chance. He gets a chance to redeem himself, and he's already proven that in the fall with having the blue hat, concussion hat on as well. I think they call those things guardians. It's something I think is just really cool to see Colbie Young's story of where he was and talking about giving a kid an opportunity to go back out there and redeem himself. And I think he's doing just that. Colbie Young is going to be a special player for us this year, and someone we're going to be talking about all season about how much he contributed to the team and how much he was a helper of us making it deep into the playoffs and possibly being national championship contenders. Lastly, I look at the young bucks. I actually had a chance to add Landon Roldan back. He's wearing a great number in 84, carrying on the Lad McConkey number. But I see these guys being situational. I see them being someone that's going to have a chance to go in when we should be up winning by 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 touchdowns, where they can go in situationally, go out and provide a block on a screen or maybe catch, something in zone and trips where they're the check down guy, things of that nature. But all of these kids are special, and they provide depth to an already good wide receiver room. And I'm going to call them great, hopefully, as we move through the season, because I really feel like that good to great is going to happen. I've just got to see the film breakdowns. I've got to see what we're going to do in the early stages of the game. But honestly, CJ Wiley is going to fit that same mentality at Z or X, being able to go up and get that 50-50 ball, but he's still a great route runner. He's a really fast kid. Talyn Taylor is the one that's buzzing right now. Everybody's buzzing about how well he did. And of course, as a catch against, I believe, I can't remember who the guy that was like Kyron Jones that was chasing him, had the big catch from Pug. I'm sure it was 2-on-2s, but even with 2-on-2s, you got, like I saw a while ago in the comments, you got Ellis Robinson and DeMello Jones at corner, and Kyron Jones, who's a vet guy, playing the nickel, against him. So to see that kind of explosion from these kids and to see what they did even in the G-Day game, because they had the opportunity to shine in the 2s and the 3s, I think just continues to add that depth that we want to see. And I enjoy the fact that we have these kids, hopefully for another 3 years, maybe even 4 years, to see them develop into a team that we're talking about them contributing towards the national championship as we move forward. But I think Talyn Taylor fits that really well. And like I said, what Landon Roldan and CJ Wiley can do is also really cool to see. Anyhow, lastly, I always go into my hunker down session with just one thing to say, and there's always something I find on Twitter every year. And I know right now we have got to this ego stroking that we're doing with Texas. My buddy Ghost that's out there, who's a huge Texas fan, I'm going to be meeting with him and talking with him here probably in the next few weeks, especially prior to the Texas game. But this guy, Ralph Russo, you can see he wrote it on August the 12th and published it at 4 a.m. in the morning. And I talk about clickbait, but man, massively, how in the world clickbait can this be right here? To go ahead and say, is Texas college football's new Alabama? I might have to say that this is the dumbest title to an editorial, to a journal column that I've ever seen in my life. Now, granted, I don't like Alabama just due to the fact major thorn in my side for the last 25 years of my life being a Georgia fan, but also too, or actually more than 25 years. But also too, I respect I respect Alabama for the ability of what they sustained for that length of time through the Nick Saban years, and even back prior to that with Gene Stallings back in the time of Bear Bryant. I mean, it's obviously a lot of history, a lot of story history with that program. So you have to, even you hate it, you have to respect it. And I know a lot of Georgia fans wouldn't say that, but from a coach's perspective, I respect the hell out of it. But Texas is someone, all of a sudden, you go from the Big 12, and you had a nice little run, got beat by Washington there in the playoffs, and on the Big 12, by the way. And then you get slapped with the brand of the SEC. You take yourself too deep in the playoffs, and you have the opportunity to, do some good things. You don't show up against Georgia in Austin. You get beat by them again with a one-arm quarterback and another kid coming in that wants it more than anything in this world and comes in and beats you a second time. But yet you're the next calling to Jesus of college football and comparing you to Alabama's dynasty that they had. Okay. How insane is that comment? All right. Now, granted, I know right now most Texas fans, whoever sees this as part of the podcast, is probably going to go, that's insane, because I don't want that smoke. But there is a lot of people out there that believe this. And I honestly feel like that there's no way in the world that you would want this kind of publicity. I know Manning really doesn't want that. All right. There's no way he wants that. But even though they are puffing so much smoke up their skirts that it's absolutely becoming almost too hard to even digest. And when I saw this, I seriously laughed out loud. I was in my school classroom and I was reading some editorials and stuff before school started that morning. And I read this and I seriously snorted laughing. Okay. Now, I'm all for Texas coming in and bringing their brand in here because I think it brings development. It brings the development of teams that are considered to have some storied success. But storied success in the Big 12 and storied success in the SEC, you know, the way I look at it, doesn't Texas need to don't they need to win an SEC championship before they start talking about them being storied with Alabama? All right. Oh, yeah. By the way, maybe win a national championship, you know, in the last 5 years, maybe. You know, I know you can go back to the 2004, 2005 year under Mac Brown and beating USC with Vince Young at quarterback. I know it's exciting to see for the Texas Longhorn fan base. But guys, you got to have some relevance to that before you start talking about even closely relating them to the Alabama dynasty that they were and have been. So, you know, Ralph, I hope and pray that you didn't take too much grief for this, but you deserve every bit of that smoke, young man. There is no way in the world that I would make a comment like that. That is absolutely, I mean, you must have wanted it, I guess. You probably got what you wanted out of that. But I hope you had plenty of people calling in and telling you what a dumbass you are with that statement right there. And I'll say that and put my stamp on it right now. And even Texas fans, I know if I was a Georgia fan, I kind of like where we sit right now at number 5. I like where we're at. We're under the radar. Coach Smart loves that. Staff love that. Players love that. Okay. Let Texas take all that smoke because more than likely they're going to fall on their face. And they've got a big game right out of the gate against Ohio State. I mean, they got to show up with their A game day one. And like I said, they're either going to prove to the masses that everybody's been talking the hype is true, or they're going to fall dead on their face. And unfortunately, I just feel like due to just past history of what's been going on, I don't know if they have the ability to do that. Who knows? We'll see. But again, just a terrible statement there by this gentleman, Ralph DeRusso. I just hope that, you know, maybe you're out of, you know, the being in house detail for the last few weeks because of the fact that people had to, you know, keep you protected from all the harassment I'm sure you took from that comment. But, you know, uniquely, it's time for us to get back to the swing of things here. And, you know, I wanted to return real quick to my URL that I have on my screen. I think that it's been an awesome journey with Coach Hayes Hudl, being able to bring you news and intel and detail and just trying to talk to you from a real transparent coach's perspective, giving you some small detail breakdowns and what I'll be bringing you during season, where I'll actually be breaking down the true X's and O's and, you know, instead of just the overviews to player tape. But that's what I do. That's what I love to do. That's my passion. And I have the opportunity to do that day in and day out. If you have the chance, you can scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, and it gives you a chance to take you to my newly developed website where you can go in and actually subscribe with your email and be put in for a one-time entry into the raffle for a prize drawing on August the 29th. I'm going to be doing that live at 5 o'clock in the afternoon prior to us taking on Marshall and on that Saturday. And you get a chance for some of this merch that you see behind me on the chairs behind me. I've got a lot of stuff that's out there, and I look forward to it. Those of you who saw everybody in the chat for the super chats, Neil, I can't thank you enough. I think Mallory, you had a contribution as well. I can't thank you enough for your contributions tonight. You helped me make my goal again, which is phenomenal. I would appreciate it if you liked the show, that you have the opportunity with all the comments that you put in there to share it with other people, because like I said, I want to be able to connect the fans to the fundamentals of football. That's my mantra. It always has been, and I truly enjoy being with you tonight. If I could say anything, the one thing that I truly love about this is the connection and the networking that I've got a chance to know with all the different people out there, from all the friends who have known me since the first day I put out my first video till today. It's been an honor working with you. I look forward to many more continued years of bringing you stuff from the Hudl, and I definitely thank you for being with me tonight. So I'm going to sign off tonight with the basis of just stay with that mentality of, you know, the the fire, the passion, and the energy that Coach Smart talks about. I want you to just stay and hunker down with all your Georgia fans. And guys, we've got just a little bit more than 2 weeks left before we play Between the Hedges and tee it up again. So for me, Coach Hayes Hudl, I appreciate all that you've done for me going forward. Look forward to seeing you soon. And like I said, if you get a chance, make sure you like and subscribe and share for me. And it is truly appreciated from the bottom of my heart. Y'all have a great night. Take care, and God bless, and go Dogs.